Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to rise and join me in a moment of silence to start our meeting, and then we will pledge the flag. As we have the moment of silence, could we please keep in mind the men and women who serve us across our state, across our nation, and around the world, keeping us safe? Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you all for taking time for being here tonight. Those of you who are attendees at the conference and those of you who have chosen to join us from the community, we're very delighted you're here. I'm Diane Douglas. I have the honor and privilege of serving you as Arizona's Superintendent of Public Instruction. Joining me on the stage this evening are Dr. Cecilia Johnson. She's an Associate Superintendent at the Department of Education for certification. And also joining me is Leah Landrum-Taylor. She's an Associate Superintendent for special projects for the department. She's also a 16-year legislator. She was in the Senate and the House representing Legislative District 27. Cecilia, would you like a few opening comments?
Thank you, Superintendent. I too welcome you and are happy that you're here to share. I think you'll find this a very welcoming opportunity for you. The listening tours have been amazing, and you will certainly know that there'll be issues that will be raised that we will be addressing. So thank you again. Once again, I'm over the educator effectiveness area, and I will be taking notes. So thank you so much for coming.
Well, good evening to everyone, and certainly I really want to thank everyone for being here as well. There are so many places you all could have been, but you chose to come here and to hear about something very important to us all, and that is the direction of education. So we know that's very critical. We will be here, we will be taking a lot of notes, so looking forward to hearing from each and every one of you.
Thank you both. Just a few brief comments before we begin. Some of you may be aware that when I ran for this office, I had a very strong opinion on the direction we were going in Arizona in education, particularly with the standards, Arizona College and Career Ready standards, AKA the Common Core standards. But I also made no bones about it when I ran, that I know the authority of this office, that I was not going to get a magic wand to just go boom and change the direction of education, nor do I think I should. I don't think that should be the decision of one person. So that's kind of the how this listening tour came to be. It's not about politics or campaigns, past, present, or future, but it is about holding the public hearings that were never held when we changed our education system so dramatically. So what we can do from this is make recommendations. Some of them might be recommendations that will go to the legislature to change some of our laws that are on the books. Some of them may be recommendations that go to the State Board of Education for increasing our standards, providing the high quality standards that our children truly need to meet their futures. And some of what we're hearing, I believe, will just help ADEs serve the districts and the schools that we serve. Most of our service is to what we call your local LEAs, local education associations, but they don't need our help except to help the children and the citizens of Arizona, because that's who our education system truly belongs to. So we want to make sure that we always do the best for them. So just a couple of ground rules for the evening, and we thank you for being here, because this is the last official stop of the listening tour for the first part of it, and I'll share a little bit more about that in just one moment, but I promise to be brief and quick. So the rules this evening, the topic is K-12 education. It can be anything on your minds about K-12 education. It might be funding, it might be testing, it might be standards, but we're going to keep it in that realm and not community colleges or the university system. If you want to speak, when you signed in, you should have gotten a little card that you can just hand in, and we'll call your name. If you choose not to speak, but you still want to give us feedback, you can do so either on the form that we've provided, or you'll see flashing all evening will be our contact information up here on the board that you can drop us an email if that's your preference, if public speaking isn't quite your cup of tea. And our listening tours have been a little bit different than what some of you might be used to with public school board meetings or city council meetings, where you have 2 or 3 minutes and you have to speak as absolutely quickly as you can to get all your thoughts out. We really don't have a time limit on your speaking this evening. What we do ask is that you keep your comments brief and as brief as you can and concise, that you respect all the other people that are here in the room. We need to be done by 7 o'clock, and we want everybody to have an opportunity to speak. So we do ask that you kind of self-monitor, but if it gets to the point where we need to move on, Charles here will stand up, and that's going to kind of be your indication that you need to kind of wrap things up a little bit. Another thing that's a little bit different than a school board or city council meeting is that generally they say, well, if somebody's already made your comment, don't make it again. You don't have to reiterate the full comment, but if you agree with something someone has said, please let us know, because we want to know the weight of the belief of that. If it's one person that thinks it, if it's 5, if the room full, if you say, no, I agree with that, that'll be perfect. So just very briefly to conclude, this is a 2-part tour. You're here for the last part of the We Are Listening tour, or the WALT tour, because everything in education must have an acronym. In the fall, we'll be coming back with feedback so that the suggestions that we want to take to the legislature or the State Board of Ed, we'll have another meeting and we'll share with you what we think we can do with all that we've heard from you. And we anticipate that to be about September or October. We want to have schools give them a chance to get back in session through August, but then we'll come back out and hopefully you'll all be able to come back and join us then. So with that, I'm going to turn the rest of the evening over to all of you. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you everyone for being here. My name is Charles Hack. I am also with the Department of Education. I'm just going to be trying to help run things so that we can move through our speakers and make sure everyone who wants to speak has a chance to speak. So typically how we've been doing that is I will call out names in groups of 5. Right now I actually only have about 5 names to call. So if you have cards, please feel free to bring them up to me or wave them and Carol will come grab them for me. Thank you very much. So all that we ask is that you, when you approach the podium here, if you could just say your first and last name and then feel free to speak. And so I'm going to go ahead and call up our first 5 names. First I have Kata Mapes, I have Lauren Johnson, Gabriela Mercer, Scott Cleaves, and Indram Solomon are our first 5 names. So if you'd like to scoot a little closer, you certainly are welcome to if you've heard your name, and that way we can keep things moving. Otherwise, go ahead, Kata.
Good evening, and thank you so much for listening to us. My name is Kata Mapes. I am retired from TUSD after 36 years primarily as a volunteer guidance counselor. And I'm also a grandparent of 2, about 4 and 6-year-old preschool, and just going into 1st grade. I will preemptively say I agree with everyone who is concerned about Common Core, but that's not really what I want to talk about. I also agree with anyone who has concerns about the amount of spending in the actual classroom, not administrative costs. But the reason I decided to speak tonight is actually about the teacher shortage. Just 2 days ago, the Washington Post had a whole article about Arizona primarily, the teacher shortage, which is probably all over the country, but when they singled out Arizona, I got really concerned because of my grandchildren. I also know a young mother whose daughter just started kindergarten this year, and she had, I think, four or five substitute teachers in the very beginning year. I still have friends who work in various schools throughout USC, and they talk about the long-term subs, and the subs come and go. There's no support for them. There's no long-term process for people to stay in education. So I strongly suggest some sort of marketing plan for getting teachers to come. There was a time when I was actually the coordinator for marketing at magnet school in USC, and I found that very difficult because if you don't have a program that will attract people, how can you attract them? How can you bring them to it? So I think there has to be some sort of comprehensive plan to make teaching in Arizona attractive so that we don't have, like I said, the students having to suffer through so many different subs, especially in the early childhood grades. So that's all I want to say. Thank you for listening.
My name is Lauren Johnson. I'm a teacher at Mountain View High School here in Tucson. And I'm also a representative for the Marana Education Association chapter of AEA. And my comment is very much in the same vein as the last one. Because of low salaries, unreasonable expectations that are constantly changing, and just a lack of respect, I feel, from the public in Arizona, we've become the kind of state where people don't want to be teachers here, and the people who are teachers here want to leave. One of my colleagues recently left because she can make more money working at Crate and Barrel and gets better benefits than she does as an education teacher. And you know, the solution to this problem seems to be dipping into one pot to fill another one instead of looking for ways of long-term sustainable revenue, you know, to go to our classrooms and to our teachers. So with that in mind, I'm concerned that the teacher shortage is only going to get worse unless we have long-term sustainable solutions to the problem of education and funding in Arizona. I'll add that last year I had 3 sections of high school English that were over 40 students. You know, and that's the kind of solution that seems to be the direction that our state is going in right now. So thank you.
I think Gabrielle was next.
Thank you for having us tonight. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for listening. I was at the Pima Community College last month when you had your listening tour. I did not have an opportunity to speak because I was not there to speak. I was there to listen. But after I listened to the Love Fest that some people were having in Common Core and Mexican American Studies, I said, I have to speak. So let me speak about on the Mexican American Studies. I grew up in Mexico. I studied Mexican history, and after looking into the curriculum for La Raza Studies, also known as Mexican American Studies, I know for a fact that the things they are teaching our children is pure indoctrination. And yes, they do teach to hate the white men, and a whole bunch of history revisionism. Aztlan, or whatever land that they use, Aztlan is nothing but an imaginary land. They teach about the white men stealing land from Mexico. Let me remind you, to all those proponents of the fake history, that in 1854, the United States of America paid for 29,640,000 miles of land in what is known as the Gadsden Purchase. It is in our history books. The United States did not steal anything from Mexico. As a born Mexican and a United States citizen by choice, I believe that it is my responsibility to teach my children about my lovely culture. It's not the responsibility of public education to indoctrinate our children on Mexican American studies. Most people think that the Mass or the Mexican American studies is unique to Tucson. It is not. My daughter graduated from Buena High School in Sierra Vista. I encouraged her to become involved with the Si Se Puede Club. After her first meeting, she came home disgusted. I asked her to explain, because I wanted her to experience, besides what Mama told her about Mexico. She told me that she could not understand why they were wanting her to hate her daddy because he's white. Needless to say, she quit the club and focused on sports and her extracurricular activities. Now let me move to Common Core. Madam Superintendent, you campaigned on one issue only. You went all over the state educating us about Common Core, and you told us that you wanted to get rid of it. I joined you and helped you campaign. I defended you. I went to war for you. So please accept all the help you have been offered to get rid of Common Core as soon as possible. If I remember correctly, I was at the same meeting with you, listening to Dr. Sandra Stotsky from Arkansas. When she came to Phoenix to speak at some educational forum with the then Superintendent Huppenthal, she spoke to us about the dangers of Common Core and challenged Huppenthal to get rid of it, and even offered to help him get rid of it for free. I believe her offer still stands, and I have her information for you, so you can call her and get in touch with her. Another thing that I heard about listening to it at the Pima Community College was bilingual education. Again, I will use my daughter as an example. I do not believe in bilingual education. English is my second language, and I believe that if you don't immerse yourself, you're never going to learn the language, and you're never going to be able to function in this country, which is an English-speaking country. My daughter, she was 4 years old when we came to the United States. I was working, so I enrolled her in a private preschool daycare. Within 4 months, she was speaking English without an accent like her mother. Immersion works. Another thing that I heard, and I think it's kind of, well, it's not redundant, but the lady that I just spoke before me, she mentioned about the salaries for teachers. I remember listening to a teacher that she said she takes home $900 every 2 weeks. Wow. I'm sorry, but I have to mention this. How can you expect to attract good teachers to live on $900 every 2 weeks? How can you explain to these teachers that the TUSD superintendent makes $247,000 a year? That equals $4,750 a week. That is $9,500 every 2 weeks. That's 10 times what this teacher takes home every 2 weeks. That's sad. How can Unified School District superintendents make so much money while the state superintendent, Mrs. Diane Douglas, makes only $85,000 a year? Wow, there's some disparity here. I just cannot understand this. $23,400 a year for a teacher, and I understand that's the average. Is insane.
Hi, my name is Scott Cruz, and I have been trying to reach you and talk to you, Ms. Douglas, and got on the internet today and found out you were right up the road. I couldn't believe it. Here, a little background on me. I've been in education for over 20 years. About half of it in public and private schools, the other half in science education, but primarily outdoor education, but 20 years nonetheless. So I've had a little bit of experience. I've taught everything from 3rd to 12th grade. Anything below 3rd is it gets a little hairy for me, especially those kindergartners. One of the things, the last 3 years, I've taught at 3 different charter schools here, 2 in Tucson and 1 in Mesa. And teaching, or regarding the teacher salaries, you know, if I were to go back to a public school system, they'd have a schedule based upon my, what my degree level is. I'm a master's +5, but all 3 of the charter schools started me out as an entry-level teacher salary because I was new to their system. I found that to be kind of, well, remarkable, to say the least, but I needed a job, so I took it. One of the things that I've discovered is that in the 3 charter schools, which were all high at-risk student-related charter schools, every one of those students is teachable. All of them are. I know how to get to them, and it can be done. I've had the worst students with the worst reputations and managed to turn them around and get them focused on learning by showing them they can be successful. So it's not like this job is impossible. It's just, it's so understaffed and underserved. It can be done. But you know, I'll get to the bottom line first. It's going to take a ton of money to get this turned around. A ton. Okay, so I got a list, starting with teacher salaries. Here it is. When the entry salary level for the teachers is somewhere in the 20s, and you're 18 and you're going to college, and you know that you have the intelligence to be a doctor or something like that, or whatever, who is going to be attracted to education? I hate to refer to it to this, but it's the bottom of the barrel college students, because because education is an easy degree, but they have no idea what they're getting into. It's an easy degree, but once they hit the pavement and get into school, boom, they're in and out in 4 years. 4 years is now the average time that a teacher serves before they quit. And that should be the time when, you know, they've got their feet firmly planted on the ground and are useful. Instead, they're leaving by then. And so, again, it starts with teacher salaries. If you want to attract the best and the brightest in the profession, well, then the salaries are going to have to start being doubled and tripled. They're so low. They're pathetically low. And then for me, you know, to have as much experience as I have, and then not get any acknowledgement or recognition for that in working by a charter school, and I start as if I'm walking into a classroom for the first time. Okay, I'll just leave that one alone, because that one kind of gets my damn throat, as you can tell. Another thing is that the teachers, okay, so with this giant shift into teaching critical thinking skills, which I happen to agree with, the kids that I'm running into, they really don't know how to think and process and synthesize and summarize and do all the things that are required in, let's say, reading comprehension. They can't do it, but they can be trained. But it's not an easy process. But last year I taught 4th grade, and the 3rd grade teacher, I asked her to grade, I had a test, a math test, and I asked her to grade, it came with no key. I asked her to grade or fill in the key for me, and she could not do it. This is a 3rd grade teacher who could not do a 4th grade math test. And this is in a charter school, and I hate to say it, but with no certification, and you know, you can pick whomever you want. Well, there's a 3rd grade teacher who can't pass a 4th grade math test. That's a problem to me. In colleges, you know, the thing that I think that needs to happen the most is that, you know, student teaching, a couple months or a semester or whatever, it's just not enough. And there needs to be more practical, hands-on solution that includes internships, where paid internships, where these teachers are with a master teacher for a year, getting paid to learn how to teach while, it's a training program. That's the only thing to me that really makes sense. Because these guys that come in these days and are facing classrooms of 36 to 40 wild middle school students, it's just, they're not ready for it. And all the things that go with it, all the other responsibilities, well, that's what I said, they're gone in 4 years. They can't do it, and they're not prepared for it in the first place. And it's a shock to them when they get in and find out what reality is really like. I think the emphasis, the number one priority has got to be elementary schools. Absolutely. How can you do well? How can any of these students do well in high school or middle school if they have not done well in elementary school? Every high school and middle school teacher I talk to says the problem starts there. Well, of course it does. And way too many students are falling through the cracks in elementary school. It's already been mentioned. If there's one teacher and there's 40 kids in the class, and the teacher is required to teach 5 subjects, plan, teach, assess all 5 subjects by herself or himself with 30 plus kids, guaranteed many of the students are going to fall through the cracks, and that's where the problem starts. It also, it really starts at kindergarten, because there's a gap that begins at kindergarten. There are a lot of kids who come in and their parents have been reading to them, teaching them things, and they're ready to, and they've gone to preschool and they're ready to go. And then there's other kids who have had nothing, and they're not ready to go at all. And so the gap between, in the levels of ability, it starts at the very beginning, which is where I'm saying the problem has to be addressed. Preschool, kindergarten, and elementary school. If they can't read and write and do basic math by the time they get out of elementary school, they are in serious trouble, and the resources are not there to help them. And then they start to fail. And it teaches them that they are failures, and it's just a downward spiral.
Real close.
Okay. Common Core. Look, to me, the main emphasis on that thing is critical thinking skills. So one way or another, I've looked at the PARC exam. It's a beast. That thing is. The entire test is critical thinking skills, and these kids don't have it. And so I don't care if it's Common Core or whatever the case may be, the kids can't do it. So the bar has been raised even higher for the teachers to perform in getting these kids to get these critical thinking skills, and yet no resources have been provided in order to make that happen. So the teachers get another whack upside the head. So have I said enough? One more thing. Okay, so this year I taught language arts in a charter school high school. And these kids are at-risk kids, 90% Latino kids or Hispanic kids down on the southwest side of town. And, the state requires them in reading to read things and digest books like the Odyssey and Shakespeare. And these kids, there's no one of the things that solves a lot of problems is to start putting high interest curricula together that these kids want to learn in. Imagine these kids down on the southwest side of town trying to read and interpret Shakespeare or the Odyssey, which was written 3,000 years ago. It's somebody up in an ivory tower is not making any sense. That's not how to get through to these guys. Got everything you got? I'm trying. And at the high school level, these guys cannot pass algebra and geometry at the high school level. Some of them don't know their times tables. That's how bad it is. How are they expected to graduate when they're operating at fourth grade level? I don't even think geometry and algebra should be required at all. I'm 55 years old and I've never used either one of them. So I think math needs to be more practical. And the focus really needs to be on language arts big time. Thank you very much.
Just before Ms. Solomon speaks, I want to go ahead and call up our next 5 names. Let's see, Kendra Ritchie, Nicole Kozad, Anna Henderson, Steve Crooks, and Liz Gingrich. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Diane Solomon, and I have a son with special needs. My son has Down syndrome and is a second grader with cognitive
Could you
deficiency.
speak into the microphone?
They can't hear you.
Yeah.
Better?
See if that's any better.
Good evening. My name is Diane Solomon, and I have a son with special needs. He is a second grader at Papa Creek Elementary, studying in general ed. The school district has not embraced UDL so far and is not willing to mandate co-teaching in the near future. I strongly feel that differentiated learning cannot be delivered without truly delivering the aptitudes of cognitive standards. For a student's ability to think critically, express creativity, and connect across multiple forms of media, teachers need to reach out to students with multiple intelligences in a university designed classroom. So what is the strategy of teaching common core standards to children with disabilities who are included in general ed settings? What teaching model is ADE implementing for primary and secondary schools that help children with special needs develop their capacity to question, discover, connect, and collaborate with their non-disabled peers, and where they are empowered by the increase in direction and management of their own learning? With the elimination of I3 funds in the following year, the Innovation Fund, how do we fuel that creativity in the classroom? Are we seeing a depletion of resources in assistive technology as an educational support in Arizona in an age where technological supremacy is paramount? My son has dreams and a ton of abilities, and it is our job as adults to help him and a million others like him build a strong foundation in a university-designed educational environment, so they can contribute to society as adults and become productive citizens of the United States of America. ADE will need to show its passion and will need to offer its services in an appropriate manner, and making this dream a reality for my son and many others. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kendra Ritchie. I'm from Copper Creek Elementary School also. A little bit of my background. I'm originally from the East Coast, taught for years at a high school level. Have taught city school, suburban school. I have grandparents, parents, everybody in public education in our family. I now sit on the opposite side as a parent and an educator at home and a PTO president watching the school and helping that school. My biggest issue, and there are many that I think face our state at this point, I've only been for 3 years. It's been an interesting 3 years for me, coming from a different area. My first thing, and it echoes what many have said, is treating teachers with the respect that they deserve. And that is culminating in pay and with the respect from not only our community, but from our parents, as their profession deserves. We have micromanaged them like minimum wage employees with testing requirements that are not necessary. It takes away from valuable educational time in the classroom, as they are the professionals. They've spent years training for this job and or years perfecting it in their classroom. They are good at what they do, and we need to give them the professional courtesy and respect for what they are able to do in the classroom. The Common Core is a whole other issue, and it's really not my big issue. I do see some issues that have come up. The implementation K through 12 made it difficult when you're working on building blocks. If they're building blocks in philosophy, starting at a kinder level makes sense. But to start at 11th grade was very difficult for those kids. And I hope that we're testing what we have taught, which if there's multiple ways to solve a problem, let's recognize those ways. I have seen some good things from it, and that I've seen children problem solving in different ways and actually understanding some things. So I guess the verdict's still out on that one, but that's really not my big issue. My big issue is funding and the state of it. I'm very, very concerned by what I see happening and what we're seeing between the haves and have-nots in the state. At this point, the haves, and by that I define people who can either travel for a school choice or the people who can pull their children out of public education for private or a different option. We've created a system in which those people who can opt out are choosing to opt out, and we're left with other people in public education that may not have that choice. I've never seen a state run it quite like this, in the sense that we actually have so much school choice, which should be fabulous if it were real school choice. But when it becomes a transportation issue, it's not really school choice. So I could drive my child to Scottsdale if I wanted to, if I could get accepted, and drive every day. And as ridiculous as that sounds, that's what we're asking some parents to do. And that's where I have a big issue with. As I look at what's happened with the charter schools, and I'm not anti-charter school in any sort of way, but my concern is how the funding pulls away from public education for those charter schools. The charter schools have the option to allow those children into the school or not. They also have testing requirements often that then kick those kids back into public education, whereby, because they don't fit the model of their educational system. And so therefore our public education system is strapped with all of these kids with many different needs, special ed, behavioral, et cetera, and not having the funding to support those children and those teachers to do that. We know the things that make the difference. It's always made the difference: lower class sizes and better pay. You need more teachers in the classroom. You need assistants in your classrooms, kindergarten teachers and assistants. They have too many children, and they do a phenomenal job. And I'm thoroughly impressed. I have never seen some of the phenomenal things I've seen in public schools, and personally at Copper Creek. I have watched our principal teach math to a child every single day because that child could not find the fit for them. I have seen a group of students pass a state bill to make copper the state symbol. I have seen kids do living wax museums and create all these phenomenal things that are phenomenal learning opportunities, and I think they're doing a phenomenal job. But they are facing great odds, and the trend is not good, because I see what's happening is we're pulling the money away from the public education, and there's only so much that other groups can do to support. As a PTO, I can tell you we have put 41 Chromebooks into the classroom. We have purchased a video conference system that took our kids to Australia, that have connected them to other classrooms. It's done all these phenomenal things. But when we look at huge funding cuts that can't support air conditioning systems and major maintenance on school buildings, there's no way for a PTO or any department else to support those major funding cuts. And we certainly can't support the staff positions to support small class sizes in a school district. So I ask you to thoughtfully consider the funding and how that funding is directed towards public schools, and how some of the funding that we're providing for charters and other is really pulling away from good public education. Thank you.
Before Nicole speaks, I just real quickly give you an update on our timing. I've got about 15 cards in front of me. Gives people about 4 to 5 minutes each. So at this point, you can still continue submitting your cards, but I want to let everyone know that if we continue getting more and more, we may not be able to get to everyone, but with about 4 to 5 minutes, we should be able to get through everybody per speaker. So go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Superintendent Diane Douglas, for making this possible for the public to be heard. And thank you to all of you who care enough to come out. This is so important. I want to echo the previous comments regarding valuing teachers. The funding of public education is so important. I think that there's other components that are playing into those factors that do influence it. We've learned over the years that you cannot just throw money at this problem and solve it. So I hope that that information definitely gets integrated with some of these other complex situations. I speak in opposition to Common Core because my personal cause for everyone here, not just myself, is personal freedom. And I'm a precinct committeeman. I campaigned for you because of your stance on Common Core. And I want everyone to know here that Common Core is not just about curricula. It's not just about standards. There's absolutely nothing common about our children. There's nothing common about our parents. There's nothing common about our teachers. Our classrooms should be forums for everyone to be able to speak their mind and share and communicate. And I think that's the initial breakdown. But it's been further complicated by matters of convenience, if you will.
Common Core has implications that reach further than just what your child has on a test or what they're being tested on. It reaches into their personal information. And I know a lot of people think it's anonymous, but to be honest with you, there's a key card on those computers. And when your child logs in, your child is being recorded. Some of that personal information has been shared, we have found, by the Board of Education without permission or notification of our parents. That is a fundamental right of our country. That's what makes us unique. We are American. So the Supreme Court has recognized that parents have the right to direct the education of their children. Lower courts are undermining parental rights. In recent years, there's evidence of that. I know we don't all have time to pay attention, but this is fact. Regardless of which school a parent chooses for their child, it is still the parent's fundamental right to control the education of their children. They cannot have any say if we have testing, whatever you want to call it, that does not allow anyone to see what's in it until we've taken the test and then sign a statement that says we're not allowed to talk about it. And there's ample evidence of that. There's a reason why federal government does not belong in our education programs. Do you want a total stranger that you don't trust, that is not held accountable to you, influencing your child? Do you want your federal government to decide what history is for your child, as we heard from Ms. Cicero Mercer? We have some real issues, and it is unfortunate that we did not stop these processes. We simply renamed them. So I'm just going to end quickly. All those who are concerned about personal liberty should be engaged in guarding against any federal control in the issues of education. And at this point, we are now at the moment where we have an Arizona Standards Development Committee, which a lot of people are involved in. And I believe that it is our rights as citizens, and it is also our charge to hold that accountable to these standards of ours as Americans, not ours as a federal government dictates. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Superintendent Douglas, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to share my thoughts with you. This will be my 20th year teaching, and I have to say you are the first. Oh, I'm Nicole Kozan. I teach in Marina. I have to say that you were actually the first superintendent to ask me my thoughts. So I'm here to give them to you. So buckle up, this will be fun. Like I said, so I'm Nicole Kozan. I teach English at Marina High School, and I also teach a career tech ed class in education professions. That means I actually teach kids who want to be teachers. And I will say that they're not the bottom of the barrel. These are fantastic kids. And they do want to enter the profession. Now, I personally know that they deserve better, and I know the hardships that they will face, but I do applaud their efforts because this is a profession that I love. I am very passionate about what I do. I love what I do. I love my students. I did not go into teaching for the money, but then again, I really don't feel that I took about poverty either. So I would appreciate that consideration in having conversations with our elected officials. Now, we can talk about administrative salaries. I hear that a lot. And, you know, when we look at jobs that are out, you know, in the public sector, the private sector, when you look at CEOs, we kind of see that discrepancy as well. It's not just within our public schools, but we see some leaders making significantly more than their employees. So that's a trend that we, the voters, probably need to start paying attention to and start holding our elected officials accountable when they talk about the economy. By the way, I'm actually raised in Arizona. I attended Arizona public schools. I was educated in your community colleges as well as your universities. So again, I'm very proud to do what I do and to live where I live. But I ask that the concern about Common Core needs to be based in facts and reality and not a political agenda. The concern needs to be about giving teachers the resources and support that we need to be effective in what we do. I'm a great teacher. I am an amazing teacher. I make a difference every day, but I can't do it without support. And what I mean by resources, I mean time. I mean lower class sizes. The 40 is actually pretty correct. I need adequate technology, and I need adequate. I'm not asking for iPads for everybody, although that would be fabulous. But just adequate, something that's realistic and that will truly prepare my students for their future. And also our infrastructures. Yeah, it'd be nice to have our air conditioning working all the time when it's 105 degrees outside. I'm very appreciative that it's working right now. And if you don't believe me, come to my classroom when I have 38 sweaty teenagers who really do not care a word about what I have to say. And I love Shakespeare, by the way, and my kids love it because I teach them how to love it. Gosh darn it. But I have to say the campaign against Common Core is rooted in misinformation. And you know what? I expect my students to use accurate information when they're preparing their arguments. So I feel that I should expect the same, if not more, from my elected officials as well as my community members. So here's a little history lesson, because I've been teaching a while. And we kind of went through this around the 2000s when we implemented standards that we really weren't asked for our input. We weren't asked at all. We were just given these standards. Couldn't tell you who developed them, couldn't tell you where it came from. All I knew that it was all of a sudden, oh my gosh, No Child Left Behind passed. We all have to have these exams and kids have to test them. And oh yes, it was implemented backwards then too. It's starting with the 10th grade because the 10th graders now have to pass the test for graduation. Let's not start it in kindergarten and grow them up because, well, that doesn't fit a political timetable. Politics doesn't work for our students. I'm gonna say that again. Politics does not work for our students. The Common Core standards, if you bother to pay attention to history, actually began with states. Our governors got together and realized our society is incredibly mobile. We can attend class without leaving our home. And so there was that recognition that, why is it that when one student moves from one state to the other, because I see this all the time, I have kids moving, and they're either really, really far ahead or really, really far behind, based on what state they came from. So they recognize what we teachers have been kind of saying all along. We kind of have to be on the same page. Now, not literally the same page, okay? I do not indoctrinate my students. I push them, not literally, but I encourage them to be critical thinkers. And the standards that we had before Common Core, I'll tell you right now, it did not teach our kids to be critical thinkers, but it did teach them how to be excellent test takers. My kids can scan like there's no tomorrow. They can scan and hunt and peck and find an answer and fill in that bubble. They are excellent at that. But you ask them about what they read, they can't really tell you. And then they get frustrated and they say, well, just tell me the answer. Just tell me the answer. The value for hard work is gone. So now our standards now, yeah, they're difficult. And I hear parents complain that they can't help their kids with their homework, and I say, good. I don't want to know how well you write a paragraph. I want to know how well your kid writes a paragraph. Because you know what? I'm willing to put in the extra time and effort necessary it takes to help that kid write a perfect paragraph. And I will push them for that. I won't settle for anything less because I know they can do it. Whether English is their second language, whether they have a learning disability, whether their parents are in jail, whether they don't know where their next meal is coming from. I'm going to teach that child because they can learn. And I can do it. But I can't do it anymore when I don't have the resources necessary because my elected officials are too busy playing political games and ending up in court and having fights and drama and behaving. Honestly, I teach at a high school and it's actually worse outside of my high school. We can be better. We can be better stewards for our students. We can behave better, and we can be better role models for our students and educate ourselves in the facts. Students should not come to school to watch their teachers work hard, but that's what they were doing. So now we have the Common Core standards or the Arizona College and Career Ready standards, so be it. But I will tell you that I'm all for it because I taught with the standards before and they had nothing to do with our students, the lives that they're going to have outside of high school. It had no relevance to them. It was meaningless for them. And the way they were written, it was so poor. One standard would take me about 9 weeks to teach. That was one standard, because it was one standard that was broken down into about 10 different components. That's not the case. The focus here is critical thinking. And as a teacher, I appreciate the freedom and the resources that I can use to teach those standards, but again, I don't really have those resources. I'm on my own. And I would love to have some more resources available, training, anything, and anything you're willing to give, I will take it. Because again, I am good at what I do. I can always be better. And I want that support, and I appreciate it. Another part about making education relevant for our kids is, well, in our area, we have the JTED. And that's the career technical education programs, which unfortunately are facing a pretty significant cut again. And a lot of these programs are what keep kids in school. And it is what's relevant to their future. And it can guarantee them a great life when they graduate. And it sets them on a path to greatness. When kids, they discover their passion and they can work through it. And there's so many programs available that are excellent for kids. I really beg that we not turn our back on those programs either. So I know you have a very difficult job, and I appreciate what you do. And again, I really appreciate you taking the time to come down here and visit with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent Douglas, for letting me speak. I've mentioned before, I'm Steve Crooks. I'm from here in Tucson. I'm a father of five, a businessman and concerned citizen of the great state of Arizona. I have two sons that have graduated high school in Arizona public school system. One now a combat medic in the Army Reserves, and a senior attending the U of A, and another a junior at the NAU. I have another son that will be a senior right down the street here at a private Christian high school, and a daughter that will be in 4th grade at a charter school this year. I've attended a few of these events and listened intently to many different views about Common Core, pros and cons, lack of funding, underpaid teachers, charter versus public, students not ready for college, and many other interesting and sometimes controversial subjects. I've seen many of these firsthand right in my own household. If you were counting, I only mentioned 4 of my kids so far. I was previously married and have an older son that dropped out of high school right here in Arizona. What I haven't heard addressed, with Arizona being basically dead last in the country for funding and other scholastic challenges, this has led to Arizona being among the worst in the nation for dropouts. This really disturbs me as a citizen of this state. Yes, we do need better funding, but we also need to have a commitment to current young adults that have been a byproduct of these circumstances and have dropped out. There are many studies that show huge economical impacts this has on our community and to generations to come. I quote from a 2014 Arizona Mayor's Educational Roundtable report. 1 in 5 Arizona youth did not complete high school, and a similar large portion of the state's youth is disconnected from either work or education. These youth face higher risk of unemployment, economical insecurity, and are more reliant on government supports, thus failing to ensure the state's youth are adequately prepared for adult creates both social and fiscal losses. The report goes on to say, for each high school dropout, the lifetime social and economical loss for the state of Arizona is $421,280. Across 18,100 students in Arizona who have dropped out high school annually, the social loss amounts to $7.6 billion. I know we can argue and discuss the exact numbers and dropouts and dollar figures, but the bottom line, this is a huge financial loss and extreme embarrassment and business handicap for our state. I've heard that these functions in charter schools only get the best students. I don't believe that is all true. Tucson's East Point High School is not only engaging students in brick and mortar environment, but they've also partnered with Graduation Solutions, a regionally accredited dropout recovery program, state funded in accordance with ARS 15-901.06. This innovating program does not only re-engage students and overcome the reasons they've dropped out, it educates them and guides them to complete their high school courses, allowing them to graduate with a well-earned high school diploma, helping prepare them for the next steps in life. This 1.5-year-old program is currently serving over 700 students. A customized competency-based curriculum with no seat time tailored to the student's life schedule online 24/7. The virtual certified teachers assess students' work, provide feedback, and offer additional support, instruction, and tutoring as needed via video conferencing, chat, email, phone call, along with local labs, if they choose, with live face-to-face instructors and mentors. The certified teachers and tutors are hired in their communities as adjunct teachers, giving well-needed additional income to already financially struggling teachers. Along with this, maybe even as important as the innovative education piece is the mentor program that all students receive. These mentors not only motivate and help with life circumstances and career choices, they set up education plans to keep students progressing and ultimately graduating. This program is providing innovative multimedia curriculum to propel students' achievements, bridging our community services with trend-setting retention program. The ethical leadership of this innovative and passionate program that truly puts people over profits, making generational changes in students and their families as we speak. The goal is simple: create education and graduation success stories, one student at a time, positively affecting generations to come. I want to thank you, Superintendent Douglas, for supporting these innovative programs and ensuring and understanding that one size does not fit all. And I ask every educator here to engage your students to stay in school. And if they don't, for whatever reason, make sure they know about programs like Graduation Solutions. Thank you.
Before Liz speaks, I want to go ahead and read off our next 5 names. And again, we have about an hour left, and so we have time for about 4 minutes per speaker, just to give everyone an idea. So I'll go ahead and stand up and we approach that point. So let me call up our next 5 names. I have Stephanie Mustaine, Verl Farnsworth, Dan Ireland, Barbara Reed, and Celeste Gamble. And Liz Gingrich, if she's.
Hi, good evening. My name is Liz Gingrich, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share concerns, comments, and being able to hear all the other speakers tonight talk about their passion and their ideas for the future of education. I started teaching 14 years ago in Northern California, including student teaching, that had 2 mentor teachers that told me to teach through the struggles with a positive attitude and from your heart. I also did AmeriCorps for a year, a service year that I was on food stamps and had $500 a month. But I worked 60 hours a week to help students graduate high school. And then I moved to the Levine district, which is in the southwest area of Phoenix, and found out that it was in the middle of Section 8 housing. I was unaware of that, but it gave me the power to know that even though teachers and students are struggling, I still thought back to the struggles, the positive, and the heart. I now teach 6th through 8th grade science at Satori Charter School here in Tucson. And I wanted to speak this evening to the positives that I have witnessed and been part of and looking forward to in education. I feel as though if we keep focusing on community and the children, I can keep going with the job that I chose to do. Some of the programs that are in Tucson are Ben's Bells. It's a kindness program that changes the environment to a safe environment in your school. It changes the way students talk to each other, and it changes their focus on not just themselves, but on the community. I also want to speak towards U of A. U of A's outreach program is the most amazing thing I have ever witnessed and been part of. If I email somebody about a science project, or if I email somebody about a language arts project, they will respond within 24 hours, be in my classroom, or invite me to their lab. I also want to talk about a new program called STEM-mazing, Science, Technology, Engineering, Art, and Mathematics. It is a free program. They offer classes at a small fee, and they are willing to come in and talk to you. They're willing to give you resources, and it's an amazing program. Barnes & Noble. We have participated in the last 5 years on Poetry Night, where you can call Barnes & Noble and you can collaborate in your school on poetry, storytelling, and artwork. They are willing to share it and give you nights, and also they give you a percentage so you can buy books for your classroom. The students, the parents, and the teachers enjoy that night after all the hard work that they put into it. I also want to talk about SARSA, Southern Arizona Regional Science and Engineering Fair. It is an amazing program that was started over 60 years ago. It brings students and professors, teachers, and community members together to strive for education in science and engineering. It gives tons and tons of awards to students, including scholarships and chances to travel and share their excitement about science. And then also I want to talk about a few programs that are just within our school, and I know that they are everywhere else. We have a Buddies program, and I was a 5th and 6th grade teacher for 5 years, and when we would go over once a month to our K1 class, the Buddies' eyes lit up, there was hugging, there was high fives, and there was an amazing feeling at the end of the school year when they graduated. We were there for their kindergarten graduation. The other thing that I want to talk about is the connections that people have talked about. Using multiple intelligences is a magical thing. Understanding that students do have different ways of learning and different ways of sharing what they're good and capable of. And last but not least, on the last day of school this year, after all the struggles, all the positives, and all the teaching from my heart, all the hugs, high fives, and handshakes that I got keeps me going. Thank you.
My name is Earl Farnsworth. I live in Mesa. Just happened to be here today teaching a Constitution class to the wonderful citizens of Saddlebrook. I'd like to challenge not only our education system of Arizona, but each of you as parents, educators, to really recognize and understand that throwing money at the problem or asking for more and more is not the solution. Let me give you what I feel is the solution for every single one of us as citizens of Arizona and for the entire United States. We have lost the whole function and our reasoning for being here as a nation, and that's because we as individuals have lost our purpose. If we understood more completely the Declaration of Independence and the equal rights that are guaranteed under and protected by the Constitution that we have here in the United States, every one of your concerns about education, about local control, about how you want to educate your children, how you would like to make those decisions, every one of them would become your own power and ability to do. If we could get the citizens of this state and across the nation to understand that the power of the vote is the process by which money moves. It is the process by which programs are brought about. It is also the process by which you as a parent have all the say, literally, over the education of your child. I'm the parent of 13 children. 11 of those have graduated. 12 have graduated from already, 11 of those from Arizona schools. I have one that's a senior at Red Mountain left to go. Out of that group, they have received a great education, but it's not just because of what the school has offered. It's because what we as a family have been determined to make sure that our children get. And we have not allowed the system to direct and move our children where they want them to go. We have gotten in as parents, we have become involved. We have decided by our votes who will be on the local board of education. We have decided in that process as a citizen that we would take this bull by the horns, and it has worked. If you want changes, and if you want the right changes, then that is what each of you need to do, is decide that your own personal freedom and liberties is the most important thing that you can exercise and that you can now teach your children. They are going to be those who determine your future. Now, if you want to know how important this is, you just think about with jobs decreasing, pays going down, and all of you are hoping to live on the Social Security at least that you have earned and paid in, it will be gone. They will not spend it in your behalf unless they understand correct principles about how we are to live and how each of us have those individual rights. And if we do not understand that the purpose of government is to protect equal rights, not provide equal things. And by protecting equal rights is equal opportunity, we can change and we can have a great place for education in Arizona. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you again for coming to Tucson or to Oro Valley. We appreciate it. My name is Stephanie Mustaine, and I am the parent of a 4th grader, a 5th grader, and now a 9th grader. I have been involved with PTO for the past 9 years, for basically the length of my children's schooling. I have been a board member, headed many fundraisers that have purchased numerous supplies, supplies probably beyond what a PTO should be purchasing, but that is what's required to bring our school up to standard. I am a Copper Creek parent, so our school has been around 25 years, or 26 years. So things are getting a little bit old, not as old as some of the schools here in Tucson, I realize, but we have had to upgrade a lot of things on our own, which we as parents are willing to do, but we can only do so much. So wanted to bring that up. I do agree with the teacher that spoke over here from Marana. Teacher respect is number one. We do need to continue to give our teachers the freedom to do what they do. They are trained professionals. They've gone to school. They have experience. We have to trust them. As far as Common Core goes, I would agree with the teacher that spoke as well. It's not a big issue for me. I have been blessed to have children that are 16 months apart in age. Very different thinkers, very different out of the box. They think out of the box, but very differently. So Common Core in some ways has been a blessing to us because it has taught them the same math skills, and both of them do it a different way and get to an answer, and neither of them are wrong. So it has allowed my children to grow and continue to think. The reading side of the program has gone deeper than my 9th grader ever saw in elementary school, but my 4th and 5th grader have learned in 2nd and 3rd grade versus what my 9th grader learned in 2nd and 3rd grade is absolutely amazing, and they are capable of it. It was a challenge, it was a struggle, but they rose to that challenge, as most children will do. They will rise when they are given the support to rise. Clearly, class size is an issue. We're asking our teachers, especially, to teach 40 students. If you're teaching a language arts class of 40 students and you have to read an essay, even a 5-paragraph essay that a 5th grader writes, you have to read that essay. I would imagine, I'm not a teacher, so I do apologize, but I would imagine a minimum of 3 times to even give it a grade, just for content, for what they're saying, for grammar, and to help them. And I cannot imagine the hours that our teachers put into doing that. And I bless our teachers for teaching my children how to write as well. But really my big issue or my big concern tonight is I am a humongous believer in public education. We have left our children in public education here in Oro Valley for numerous reasons. The number one reason is the well-balanced education they are receiving in and outside the classroom. I feel like when we look at private schools and charter schools and public schools, we are really comparing apples to oranges. They are not held to the same requirements. Private schools can take or not take kids. Charter schools can take or not take kids in some ways. They don't have to provide special needs programs, transportation, free lunches. Some of them aren't even required to have certified teachers, which we are asking our public schools to do. I have left my children in public schools because the education they have gotten from being around children that need free lunches, from being around special needs children, have made them the person that they are today and have made them be willing to accept children that are different from them to be their friends and to not treat them as different when they see somebody that might be different on the streets or different in a camp setting. They don't see that. They just see the whole person. And I truly believe that they have seen that because we have left them in public education where that is an everyday example for them. We talk about funding. I would like to bring up the tax credit issue. I think it is absolutely, I don't understand it. I have not understood it since the day I moved here when my oldest son was 18 months old, that we can give a public school $400 and we can get, as a married couple, and we can give a private school that pays for tuition for $1,000. We need, and I hear at this point it's up to $2,000 to some degree. We need to make the playing field equal. The funding needs to be equal. I'm not necessarily suggesting you take away funding from other schools, but just make it equal. If I can write a tax credit to pay for tuition for someone to go to private school for $1,000, why can't I write a tax credit for $1,000 to my public school? We also need to open it up. If we are using it for tuition for private school, it is so limited on what our kids can use it for. The fact that we cannot use it for technology and the things that our kids see each and every day is really disturbing to me. And so I would like the tax credit issue to be looked at and considered, and at a bare minimum, that we level the playing field and it be the same. I would like to point out, as we talk about some of these charter schools and private schools that we are funding through tax credit programs, we really need to look at some of, as it's already been mentioned, public schools get those kids back on several occasions. If they don't fit the mold of the charter school, parents can no longer commit to what they have committed to them, to driving or their lifestyle changes. So again, that would be my concern. And I would also like to add, last but not least, I would encourage you, whatever we do with the standards, that we keep them high, because the children can rise, but we also need to adjust to each and every child and realize that each and every child is different. Thank you.
Dan Ireland next. Is Dan? Okay, perfect.
A lot of anticipation there. Well, I'm Dan Ireland. Thank you for coming back down. Superintendent Douglas, hello again. I'm a teacher in the Tucson Unified School District, where I teach social studies, including government, U.S. history, as well as a cultural perspective on U.S. history. And I have a couple things to say. My first thing was on the issue of the phrase that I hear a lot of times is the throw money at it. And I've yet to see the bill or the sign or the advocate or anyone say, yes, let's just throw money at it. Let's just take money, throw it in a bag, and throw it at schools and hope for the best. I think that throwing money is not the way to say it, and frankly, it seems kind of condescending. Schools need a lot of things. We need air conditioning, we need books, we need paper, we need adequate salaries to keep people coming back. We need safe buses and people that are good and competent driving those buses. We need crossing guards. We need lots of things that happen in education. And frankly, I don't see any one of those as throwing money at it yet. As teachers, and I think there were several PTO members, we've been having to cut corners and find other ways to do things. We're donating money. I'm sure every teacher in here does the whole $250 thing of their own money every year that they give them to for various things for school. So I want schools funded. I don't want money thrown at me, but I would like them funded. So that's that. My other thing is on the Common Core, and I appreciate that what Ms. Kozak said that, and from what I gather, every time I come to these things, teachers, the ones that are doing it, like it. Because again, and it's funny that the proponents or the opponents say that Common Core, is horrible and it just takes away choices from kids. And it's funny because Common Core does exactly the opposite. It teaches critical thinking. It teaches kids to look at things and say, well, what do you think? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? And that's something I did in my cultural perspective class. School shouldn't be about indoctrination to one, philosophy or another. Common Core is simply critically analyze what's in front of you. You don't like evolution? Okay. That's fine. Come up with, what you think on it. You don't like this, you don't like that, that's fine. What do you see and how do you think? And that's how, at least in my classroom, that's how we teach. And I think most of the educators here would say the same thing. My final thing in conclusion, I'll be brief, is on the issue of teacher retention. And I challenge you, Superintendent Douglas, that I want Arizona to be the first state to tackle what I see as the biggest problem that we have. We lose teachers every year, especially with new ones. They leave in the first 5 years, and we all know those statistics. I want Arizona to be the first state to come up with a solution for that problem. I would love it if we had people lined up, wanting to become teachers, wanting to stay teachers, and after their 5th year saying, I love this and I want to commit more to it. We need to come up with a solution. We need to learn how to value teachers. And again, it isn't just throw money at it, but value teachers. Teachers that leave the profession, yes, salary I guess would be one of the things, but mostly it's an idea of too much work, too much restrictions. I have to do this, and this, and do that, and grade this, and have this, and do that. And also having no support. As newly first-year teachers, you get assigned a mentor, and that eats up your planning time because they want to sit down with you, and it just eats up all of your time, and then you're kind of frustrated with the system. We need to come up with better ways to support teachers, especially those that are coming into the profession. We need to value them so they stick around because they are our future. And last thing, as far as for a citizenry, and again, like I said, I teach high school and I teach government, but I'm proud to say that every one of my students, the seniors in 18, all of them became registered voters. And I think Thomas Jefferson, the one who wrote the Declaration of Independence, was most of it, wanted a educated, at the public's expense, citizenry. And that's how you make a good America, and that's how you make good citizens. Yes, they need to register to vote, but they also need the schools and institutions that teach them the value of that and the merit of having the vote and what it means, and then critically analyzing what they should vote for. Thank you.
My name is Barbara Reed. I live here in Morrow Valley, but I retired to USD teacher. I was so impressed reading in the Arizona Daily Star that our Superintendent Sanchez is one of the top 15 paid superintendents in the whole country. A day before, a day after, I did read that the money we spend on education in the state of Arizona is like $3,000 less than the national average. So using my Common Core critical thinking skills, I realized that is not right. So I have joined all these association things, retired, I came here because something does not make sense. As I said, this is why I sort of like Common Core, is because of critical thinking. Other things that are brought up is pay. I know teachers here do not make a lot of money. I retired from another state. I came to Arizona and I was able to buy out 5 years. So I spent 25 years there, bought out 5 years and came to Arizona. My retirement from the other state, a teacher in Arizona in Tucson, you had to be on the 14th or 15th level to reach my retirement. I think that's very sad. In case you hear the New York accent, I've been reading New York papers and they're talking about $15 minimum wage. Substitutes in the TUSD system do not make minimum wage if you go on that. If they make $15, it would come out to about how much a day? More than a substitute within the system. Something, critical skills again, that does not make sense. I can go to McDonald's and $15 an hour make more than a substitute teacher. I listen to other people talk about retention. And I'm looking around, and as I go back to my schools, I look around, we do not have new faces there. The young are not coming into the system. They're going either to other states or they're getting out of teaching. I can look around the school I was last at. We may have 1 or 2 young teachers. And pretty soon they'll be out of that too. And of course, I do believe in the Common Core. I was talking to one of the legislatures that were talking up for votes last year, and he was going on this, the Common Core is so horrible. So I asked one of his aides, where did he get the information about the Common Core? And he said, well, he heard from parents and people. I said, did he ever hear from a teacher that taught it? No, he didn't. So how can you really talk about this? Common Core has good things. I think the testing is what's bad. My friends in New York who have to take the New York Regents, their students could be brilliant and cannot pass the algebra Regents exam in order to pass high school for Regents diploma. So I think it's, everyone thought about the Common Core and they thought about teaching. There has to be something in the middle to fix it a little bit. But the Common Core to me is very good. According to private schools, when I first came out here, friends of mine came first. And of course, we want to give money to private schools and parochial schools and everyone else. And the superintendent of the school right here in our valley, oh, he was so excited to get another teacher, because my friend came out here first to teach. And he wanted another teacher from that same system. And he was so excited for a long time, until he learned about my religion. I'm Jewish. I'm proud of it, but I was not welcome there. We want to give public money to the school system. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for talking. My friends do need a raise. They need to have money, not a raise, they need money to live honestly. I have an aide in my house right now because my husband's sick. Makes $160 a day. Teachers don't make that a day. Thank you very much.
Just before Celeste speaks, I'll read off our next 5 names. I have Edna San Miguel, Olga Taro, Rebecca Green, Angelina Canto, and Janelle Edmonds. And we're still on about our 4-minute pace, so thank you all for keeping brief. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Celeste Gamble, and I feel like I'm speaking for myself as well as a lot of moms in my same demographic and at my table. We are primarily concerned with the budget cuts that we've recently seen passed. That is very concerning in the K through 12 department, but also I worry about it for community colleges and universities, how they have lost a lot of their funding. I recently decided to go back to school to pursue another degree at Pima County, and I've noticed that my personal tuition, and I just do this part-time, I took 2 classes last semester, and then the 2 that I'm taking in the fall, the increase in tuition was over $200 just for those 2 classes. And while I'm not the typical student at Pima Community College, I look at the demographics there and I worry that a lot of them cannot afford that $200 increase for 2 classes. That's a huge burden on them financially, because I think a lot of those people are more lower income, and I feel like we're just kind of cutting them off at the knees. So I wish that that could be reconsidered and that you would look into that. I worry that there was that huge budget cut for education, but then an increase in prison funding. And I think that maybe we've got that reversed. I think the funding needs to be taken from the prison because they don't need any frills in prison, but our students do, and that money could be diverted back to education. So that's just one idea I had with the budget. The other thing that I had a problem with was the gag order. And I don't think it had been brought up, but I was very concerned, and I actually had to stop reading about the gag order because I was getting so angry that we were going to cut off the voice for our superintendents, teachers. Has everybody heard about that? Okay, good. Because noticing some looks like people hadn't heard. But anyways, just not having that voice, I feel like they have so much valuable input. They are in the trenches and they see what's going on. And if they're not allowed to talk about it, then that's just going to create a long-term problem. More voices aren't going to be heard, and I feel like it's just going to become more of a political game where you have a few officials dictating everything when they don't have a clear picture of what's going on below. So my other 2 quick points were about testing on the students. I feel like we just have such a focus on testing and not on education. And I'm not a teacher, but I have a son, and there's a lot of testing going on, and he is only in kindergarten. And I worry that there's so much of that focus, and the time is being wasted on that as opposed to actual learning. And then the other thing, my last point was about teacher pay and how the testing scores contribute to that, and that is based in their pay. I don't think that's a fair statistic. I think that these test scores are largely made up of demographics, and the better the demographics, the better the test scores, as opposed to the better the teacher, the better the test scores. Well, I don't want to discount teachers, I'm sure there is some room for that, but I think mostly it has to do with demographics. And okay, the last thing, sorry, I had one more, was just class size. these 40 kids in a classroom, that is way too many. I personally chose to put my son into BASIS, which is a charter school, and they have a teacher and a teacher's aide in every class, and they cap it at about 30. And that was my entire reason for choosing BASIS, was because they had that lower teacher to student ratio. So I would hope that that would be something that you guys consider going forward. Thank you so much.
Good evening. My name is Ethan San Miguel, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Ethan San Miguel, as I've said, and I'm also declaring a run for the United States Congressional seat 2016 District 3 against Raul Grijalva. In 1997, I was a school teacher, full-time school teacher at Tucson High School. I was a fine arts teacher and an art history teacher in charge of the Taj Mahal Gallery, as well as 300 display cases all throughout the school. One day, I had the Christian club come up to me, and they had a concern. Their concern was that their Christian posters were being torn down from the school hallways by the Pink Triangle Club, which is a gay and lesbian club, by the Wiccan Club, which is a club that teaches, I'm not quite sure what it teaches, but anyways, my students' Christian club posters were ripped down, and they were not able to advertise their Bible study classes for the evening, to have pizza, to get together, congregate with other students. I decided to take a very prime spot display case for these students. I said, not to worry, follow me. I'm going to take you to this one display case in the main building next to the gallery, and you can have that one. It's protected, it's under glass, I'll lock it up, no problem. The students followed me with a box of their items that they were going to place in this display case. I left them there for a good 15 to 20 minutes. After 15, 20 minutes, I came back to return. They were done with their display case. And what they had displayed on that case was an open Bible, were posters of their club meetings, dates, times, and that pizza was going to be offered. They were very pleased and happy to see that their items would no longer be destroyed, torn, or however, mishandled. No more than 15, 20 minutes, I'm in another building site, because I have 300 display cases to tend to, when I hear my name on the intercom coming from the principal's office. The principal was calling me to come directly to her office immediately. She needed to see me right away. I wasn't quite sure what the problem was, but I had a sense that I was in some trouble. On my walk back to the main building at Tucson High, I encountered a few teachers. And on my way back, they said, Edna, you need to lay low. We all do this. You're going to get yourself in trouble. You are constantly out there, challenging. I go, I don't think that I'm challenging. I'm just here to teach students their right to display their items and so forth. So many of these teachers are actually afraid. They're hidden behind they're in their classrooms behind those closed doors. I can't live that way. I can't even fathom teaching in this manner. I get to the principal's office. She looks rather cross, upset. She walks me to the display case. And she says, Miss San Miguel, you are in violation of church and state. You must remove this Bible and these posters immediately. Well, I don't think she knew this part of me, but I used to teach American history and I taught other history courses, and I knew that there was no such law in violation of church and state. I stood there and